episode 16 on the Let's Talk Wellness podcast. The vision of this podcast is to empower you with knowledge in holistic wellness and self-care. My name is Shalini. I'm a corporate tech professional. I'm a certified yoga meditation instructor, a health coach, and a Reiki healer. Today, I'm very excited to have our guest, Alyssa Ball, and the topic for today is simplifying healthy living as a parent. Alyssa Ball is the founder of Bell Soul Wellness, an online wellness coaching and energy healing practice geared to help others create a strong foundation for their health and well-being. Alyssa is a registered nurse, a board-certified health and wellness coach, and a Reiki Master. Simply put, her vision is to help create beauty and balance in the life of her clients. Alyssa's personal struggle with anxiety sparked a deep sense of purpose to discover her own path to healing. The heart of her coaching is based on the mind, body-spirit connection, as she believes health is multidimensional and healing comes from within. As an integrative nurse coach, she uses a holistic approach to collaborate with clients to integrate positive and sustainable changes. She facilitates healing through the use of mindfulness, reprogramming negative thoughts, assessing inner wisdom, energy work, and health promotion. Alyssa is also a wife and a mother to 3 beautiful children, ages 6, 5, and 1. Welcome, Alyssa.
Hi, Shal. Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, before we even get into all your wellness journey, I'm excited to, just start off with how is it being a mom of 3 kids?
Well, it is busy, but it's amazing. I mean, my children are 6, 5, and 1.5. So yeah, so I have a different age ranges there, but everyone is doing very well. And I mean, motherhood is, I say, the most beautiful. It's very challenging, but it is the most beautiful thing that's happened to me.
It's amazing. Girls or boys? Or
I
a
have 2
combination?
girls. I have 2 girls, and which is awesome because they're like best friends. And then my last one's a little boy. His name's Luca.
Awesome. All right. Perfect. So, Alyssa, tell us a little bit about, your wellness journey. Of course, you were a nurse, a traditional nurse. How did you transition and why?
Yeah, okay. So my journey into wellness really started when I was about 22. Seemingly out of nowhere, I had this huge panic attack, and that I feel like changed the course of my life. I vividly remember this moment. I was driving to my job. I was a waitress at the time. I had just graduated college, looking for a job. I actually finally just landed a job, and my first job was in advertising. I actually was not in the nursing field yet. And I knew I didn't like feel well. And then for some reason, I just felt like very strange. And then when I got to my job, I was like taking an order. And then all of a sudden, I feel like the room went dark, like Charlie Brown voices. And I just felt like I was going to get sick. And I ran to the bathroom, and I was so like confused. I was like, what is going on with me? And that was really the start of these recurring panic attacks that just happened to me. And I was starting my brand new job in a couple of days, and I just didn't know how I was going to function. I felt like my nerves were on fire, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And eventually I did see a doctor, and I eventually did see a therapist, and that kind of opened my mind with therapy. I had never experienced it before. And then from that point on, I just didn't feel like myself. I felt like this different version of myself. I was very outgoing. I went out all the time, and now I wanted to be introverted and hide away. And I didn't like how I felt. When I had met with different practitioners, they didn't really give me many options besides just like talk therapy and medication. Eventually, I wasn't progressing well, and I did take medication to help me, and it did help me during that time. But eventually, after seeing a couple of different people, I found one therapist that was so amazing, and I felt like he really helped me open my mind into like what was going on with my body. And it did take me many, many years to kind of like get back to feeling normal. I mean, I definitely felt like I was better, but I I had this like thing that always was like in the back of my mind, like, what if I have another panic attack? And I kind of vowed in that moment to be like, I'm going to figure this out because I don't want to live my life this way. Like, why am I having this anxiety? So eventually, I did leave advertising. I worked there for about like a year and a half, and I felt like I wanted to do more. I wanted to help people. I didn't feel very fulfilled. So that kind of is where I ended up going back to nursing school. And yeah, and that's I wanted to help people. I felt like I was helped by somebody else, and I felt like that was part of my calling.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and then from that traditional nurse, how did the holistic journey and, mindfulness, the Reiki, all of that, how did all of that come together?
Yeah, it's so funny to like look back in hindsight and you're like, oh, it could just make sense. I mean, initially, my first job was in the NICU. I really loved the maternal child world. I wanted to work with babies. So I worked in the NICU and it was a very wonderful job, but I felt like the adrenaline part of it was not like my niche. I wanted something where I could really sit down with patients and do a little bit more one-on-one long-term care. So I eventually transitioned to an outpatient IVF fertility place. And that was a good job, which I actually still do some remote work for this place. But then along my journey, I did get an opportunity to work on the postpartum floor. And it was something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to care for like the mom and baby right after birth. And I did love that job. But what happened was I ended up getting stuck on nights for a very long time. And I ended up going through another cycle of like panic and anxiety. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. It was because my whole system was just thrown off from the nights. And I actually left that job to go into back into my outpatient fertility job because I felt so kind of like ashamed and disheartened. I really loved the job, but I just couldn't handle it. So I eventually went back to my outpatient fertility job. And although I did like what I was doing, I kind of kept having this feeling like, am I making a difference? Like, are these people truly healing? I kind of just felt like I was just doing the same orders and the same conversations, but people weren't, are they getting well? Like, what does it even mean to be well? So that kind of was like where my mind was at that point. Then I became a mom, and I feel like motherhood really changed me. I feel like, and this is a whole other conversation, but I do feel like motherhood is what healed my anxiety. I really felt like a different person. I transitioned into this new person with a purpose and a stronger mind. And from there, I also learned a lot about non-toxic living. As you are a mom and you're researching products, especially now with like the information age that we live in, you have access to all this information. I was so oblivious to how the environment really can impact you, right? All of the toxic things that exist in the environment. So that was like my mind again opened up into that. And then the last piece was really COVID. And I think obviously COVID was like a huge transition for a lot of people where their eyes really opened up to like what's going on. And I just started to question everything like why were we forcing pharmaceuticals and a Krispy Kreme donut as an incentive when we know we could do other things like lifestyle interventions and all of that. So that's really where my mind opened up. And at this point I had my two daughters and I was like, I really want to get into holistic nursing because I feel like that is my calling. I kept getting like little signs and I got like ads on my, how the phone maybe listens, or I
Yes.
got ads. And I ended up taking a coaching course, a nurse coaching course, and I became certified as a nurse coach and then eventually holistic nurse. And then eventually I did and get into Reiki as well. So that's kind of like where it all stemmed from. And I'm just so passionate now about holistic health, just seeing and in my own experience with my doctors, the short amount of time you're given when you do see a primary care doctor or any specialty doctor, you don't get a lot of time with them. And it's not necessarily the physician, it's really the system that we have. And I think I really wanted to create a space where I could actually have time with patients, not like as a traditional nurse, you're on a floor, you're running around. I always felt like a chicken with no head, just like running to the next person and not having that time. You need time to really sit down and get to know the patient. So that's kind of where I ended up into this holistic space. And I ended up launching this my business. Really, I was very pregnant with my son last year, but I just kind of felt like if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And I needed that like gutsiness, like that step just to do it. And I'm very, very glad I did.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. And so now essentially you run your business, right, full time? Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, my business is, I feel like, another baby. I can't wait for it to keep growing. But I do also work part-time still. I do a little bit of part-time work still for that IVF fertility place. I do it around really my kids' schedules, like when they're in school, I try to keep that. And then in terms of my business, I mean, I can really work. The beauty of having your own business, you can kind of work that schedule. And I do a lot of evenings, which just kind of works for me and a lot of clients. Um,
Awesome. Perfect. So I guess so it's a mix of just the traditional skills you learned as a nurse, but you're also obviously adding the holistic part to that, right? Which is mindfulness and I guess now you said Reiki, but like other practices which are more alternative to medicine. Is that kind of how you do that?
Yeah, so I mean, with my coaching, I am technically a registered nurse, so I have that background. So know there's many different types of coaches out there, right? Like specifically health coaches as well. But utilizing a nurse to be your coach, I believe has an advantage because I do have that medical knowledge and I also have that clinical experience in the world of conventional medicine. And I think that helps to bring knowledge and information to the patient because you can kind of like apply that to like when you are in the doctor's office or when you do have certain symptoms going on. And I also recently studied functional medicine and I became certified as a functional medicine nurse, but I have so much more learning to do with functional medicine. I feel like I kind of hit just the tip of the iceberg. There's just so much, as you know, like to dive into with that. And functional medicine is really like looking at the root cause. So, not necessarily like putting a band-aid on something, right? We're actually going to dive deep and be like, why are you experiencing those symptoms? So, I think again, my experience as a nurse kind of helps when I am coaching patients who maybe have a particular challenge and we actually are like digging deep and seeing why. And then with Bell Soleil Wellness, I mean, part of what I do is really looking at the whole person as a holistic nurse and we go through the different pillars of well-being, but I basically kind of divide it into matters of the body, matters of the mind, and the matters of the spirit. So to lay a strong foundation for your health, you really need that physical layer, right? So we're looking at your nutrition, how you're moving your body with exercise or any sort of movement, gentle movement, and then also your environment. And that I'm a huge advocate for, non-toxic or low toxic living. As you know, that's like a huge thing nowadays. People are becoming more and more aware of all the toxins that exist and how it actually plays a role in disease, causing disease in the body. So that's something we look at. So that really kind of lays a strong foundation for your health. And then just looking at matters of the mind. So your mindset, obviously having a strong mindset changes everything, right? Like shifting from maybe like victim mentality or looking at those limiting beliefs. Because a lot of times when I am working with people, it's not necessarily, there's many barriers that exist for people. Everybody's unique and has different challenges. But a huge component is really that those subconscious limiting beliefs that we have. And we all have them. It's like rooted from childhood. And now as a mom, I keep thinking like, how do I play a role in my child's life? Like I always kind of have that in the back of my mind. I mean, everyone's going to experience things in different ways and we're all going to go through certain things, but I do believe that a lot of those beliefs is kind of like what shapes you and it can hold you back from even like you may not realize it, but like say for example, someone's trying to lose weight, like you have to also look at your beliefs around that. It's not just
Exactly.
like what you're physically doing is important, but you also have to look at like how you mentally approach it and what you actually believe in your own capability because I do believe that we have our own innate healing powers within us and it definitely changes the game when you're approaching any sort of health challenge. It's really the mind is very very important. And then also when I am working with mindset with people, tapping into your own innate wisdom, right? We have this like little voice inside ourselves and like for me that hits home for me because I feel like for the longest time and part of why maybe I had some anxiety issues is not listening to my own voice. And it's very hard because you get all these like noises from the outside world, or like your mother told you this, or you grew up this way, and or social media or your friends think. But a lot of that is a lot of questions or challenges you have can be solved by just kind of tuning inwards. And I'm a big advocate for meditation or doing any sort of practice where you are tuning into your own self, sitting with your thoughts and not just sort of avoiding it by all these other things and distractions that we have.
Right.
And then matters of the spirit. So that's kind of like the last layer. We look at your energy. I do believe like change your energy, you change your life. A lot of my thoughts is Joe Dispenza's work. I'm an incredible fan of his work, and I do believe that by intentionally shifting your mindset and also your emotional state, you can change your vibrational frequency. And we are energetic beings, and that's kind of where I ended up getting into Reiki. Like, we have this life force energy that's within us, and like what we put out into the world, we get back. So it's all about that as well.
Great. Wow. So are there just maybe like, I don't know, one or two examples, high level, but just in terms of clients who've come to you, like what kind of themes have you seen?
Yeah. Okay. So most of the people I do work with are busy moms. So people kind of like myself. And a lot of it is that I get a recurring theme is you're like, I don't have time for me. So like
Yes.
this, I
Yes.
don't have time. And I get that. I do not have it all figured out. And I'm not saying that I have it all figured out either. But I do think, again, a lot of that belief is I don't have time for me. And like I put myself last, or I don't have time to care for my body. But I think we all know as moms and just even as humans, like if you don't fill your own cup first, you can't really fill somebody else's, and you will feel more depleted. And I have my own personal examples of like the mornings where, if you are a morning person, you have some sort of morning routine. When I wake up early and I do my morning routine that I know is filling my cup and for my own wellness practices, I am a better mom that day. When I don't and my day is not started right way, it's just kind of like a cascade of like, all these feelings and things, and I'm not handling things the best way. So I do think having that mindset of I am important, I am a mom, but it's important to take care of myself first. And you have to just be adaptable and figure out ways to do it. Not everyone has a lot of help or, like a babysitter or family around. Like, I don't have my family close by to help me with my kids. And really just me and my husband kind of play off of each other. And it's challenging. We try to figure it out, but I just know if you have that intention and that will, and you're sick of that old self, you're sick of, that same story, you can create a new story and you can carve out certain amounts of time. And I do find that a lot of the times with the moms, and I've definitely been guilty of this as well, is like we waste a lot of time doing other things that we don't even realize are time sucking. Like scrolling on social media, right? Like we can get so caught up doing that. Anybody can. So it's really just sometimes you just need to like sit there with the person and like talk it out.
Right.
So having somebody keep you accountable, having somebody just, open up your mind with new questions and possibilities. But I think that you have to also be willing to be at that point of wanting to change. And that's really where people will seek out a coach when they are sick of maybe what they've been doing or what they've been told and can't find help, and then they'll go this kind of route. And that's kind of like where I find a lot of my clients are, is like busy moms who just like maybe they are doing some other health, having some sort of other health challenges, and they're not satisfied with what their physician's saying, because some people maybe have like, oh, my symptoms aren't being, like my doctor's not really recognizing my symptoms are real. And that's like another thing that another big one that I get too.
Got it. Got it. So, obviously, having three kids, you run your holistic wellness business, and of course, you got to still be a mother, right? You got to do all of that as well. So, what would be maybe just even like three tips, right, that you would give to, I'm sure, parents who are listening, right, whether they're a mom or a dad, but obviously supporting, at home as a parent, what would your advice be?
Yeah. Okay. So Living well, I mean, I've thought about this a lot. I've read a lot on the topic, but like it really comes down to the basics. And it's kind of like the answer is not like this huge, great mystery that isn't covered. It's really the basics, like how we were meant to live is really the things that will change your life. I mean, it's like redundant, but it's good quality sleep. And you know that that changes how you feel. And also, like, sleep is so important for your cells and restoring your body. Like, you don't even realize how important sleep is on a cellular level. Getting adequate sunlight is important. I mean, those whole nutritious foods that your diet plays a huge role. Moving your body, okay? You don't have to be going to the gym every day, but like how can you incorporate movement and even walking? Like we know there's so much research like the benefits of walking, getting in some steps, and if you are a parent, you are running around, right? But just figuring out what works for you best and making sure you incorporate that in some way, and also having some sort of fun, rest, enjoyment, playtime, like that's an important thing too. And I know that can kind of be overlooked sometimes, but can you make the small mundane moments, those are your moments of happiness with your family. And it's like a reframing, okay? Because when you are a parent, you choose to enter this world and you are not going to get the same free time that you once had.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you realize like, oh
It's a
my God, what
choice.
did I
Yes.
do? What did I do? I'm like, I had so much time on my hands, and now I'm like, I gotta. But I think, in the wellness world, there are many things that you can do to biohack your health, and there's things that you can do that really greatly change your health by just looking at the simple things like food, exercise, sunlight, having fun and moving your body and sleep, all of those things.
Do you recommend, I mean, any tips? Like, I don't know how you do this. Is it a calendar? Is it a planner? Do you like cook over the weekend and figure out your week? Like, I don't know. I'm just curious if you can break it down, right? With just how can the audience simplify healthy living, right? Being a parent and trying to juggle that.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone's schedules and lives are very different. Support systems are different. Like for me, what I find for if I want to have any like me time, like in terms of like wellness practices, I do it in the morning because that sets my day up right. And I find that, yes, there are things that happen overnight. Kid gets sick, whatever. But you have to sort of just accept with grace, it's not going to happen today and not stress about that, right? But I think if you have the intention that you want to, set yourself up for success and you want to actually feel like you're thriving, not just like surviving, once you are sort of in like a place to do that, like, right, the time is not to do it when you have a newborn. Like all that stuff goes out the window when you have a newborn, right? Or something like that. But really finding what works for you, I get up early before my kids because if I save my exercise or I can't meditate with my kids or my red light therapy, I love that, things like that, I do it before. And I think having a day, yes, I do think for having some sort of like day in the week where you do prepare some stuff like nutritious wise. Everyone's kids have different tastes, but like there's a couple of staples that you could kind of like rely on, and I freeze them, like a free that is something that can be very, very helpful. But yeah, it's really just bringing yourself back to the basics, like, and if you also have to have that like mindset where you have to be able to adapt. And if you can't get to your gym class, like, can you go for a walk with your kid? Holding yourself accountable. If like you say, like right now, all that's possible for me is 3 days a week. Can you like, what are your 3 days? And people, I think writing your intentions and writing your plan down helps so much because actually like the act of physically writing it down, it makes a difference. I actually do. I have a planner. I write things down in a planner. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but he likes his phone. I just don't process things the same electronically. I like to write it down. So yeah.
It helps. I know. Yes. Awesome. Perfect. Hey, thank you so much, Alyssa. I guess as we conclude, do you want to share where folks can reach out to you and follow you?
Yeah, my website's bellesolewellness.com, and also my Instagram handle is bellesolewellness, so you can check me out there.
Thank you so much for taking this time and sharing these tips with us.
Thank you so much, Sal. I had a great time just talking.